And folks, Victor Wembanyama is only 22 years old, and even in a double overtime game, he casually drops 41 points, 22 rebounds, an ensemble force that played 48 minutes, a full basketball game where he barely played 40 minutes all season long, and he wasn't even out of gas. This is why I said going into last year's playoffs that the entire pressure was on the Oklahoma City Thunder to win the NBA championship because I said the Spurs are coming. And this may sound like an exaggeration. This may sound like an hyperbole, but I don't believe it is. Folks, I started watching Victor Wembanyama back when he was in high school, back when he was 16, 17 years old. And I warned you, go back and listen to podcasts that I did, in about 2022, early 2023, when we were talking about this kid, Victor Wembanyama, coming out of France, going into the NBA draft. I said he has a chance to change a franchise forever. And in my opinion, at this point, and again, I don't think this is too much to say, Victor Wembanyama's ceiling is to make the LeBron James and Michael Jordan GOAT debate irrelevant because he could be the all-time GOAT. And folks, this Spurs team went in there last night against OKC. And listen, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander only had 4 points in the first half, only had 10 at the end of the third quarter. Alex Caruso provided the punch that they needed. He pretty much picked up the scoring on the offensive end, and Jalen Williams came back from his devastating injury to the hamstring and provided some big buckets late. But this Thunder team was clearly scared in the lane of Victor Wembanyama. They drew up plays late in the game to go away from Victor Wembanyama at the basket. But in the end, when push came to shove, I just believe that after watching Shea Gilgeous-Alexander get the MVP, which listen, I was saying all year long that I thought SGA was going to win the MVP. I was saying that Victor Wembanyama deserved to be the MVP along with Cade Cunningham because I think that those are two of the players in this current NBA season that you could not tell the story of the NBA season without in Wemby and Cade. But I thought that SGA scoring, 20 plus points 120 times, passing Will Chamberlain, that was the story. He was going to win back-to-back MVPs because the MVP award, it's why I don't get upset about it. It's the same in every sport now. The MVP award is a narrative award. But I do think Victor Wembanyama wanted the MVP. I think he felt like he deserved it, and he made a point last night to all of those people sitting in Oklahoma City. I am the best player in the world. And I said that when Jokic and the Nuggets launched the T-Wars, that Jokic's title as best player in the world was revoked. And then I watched what San Antonio did to Minnesota. And Minnesota did win 2 games. One of those was when Wembanyama, in my opinion, was wrongfully ejected. I thought, it was an accidental elbow. It was more of a get off me elbow than an intentional elbow. And one of those was a wild comeback in game 1 where the Spurs had a chance to win at the buzzer. After that, the Spurs beat the Timberwolves so bad, people were upset that Anthony Edwards went over and dapped up the San Antonio Spurs bench with 8 minutes to go in game 6. When Chris Finch already told them this game's over, I'm emptying out the bench, so I didn't have a problem with it. But Minnesota undressed Denver, San Antonio undressed Minnesota. And this is a Spurs team who at times does look young. Yeah, the Thunder hands are all over the basketball. And yes, the Thunder have more experience. But San Antonio didn't even empty Aaron Fox last night. And the Thunder, did they look a little bit rusty? Yeah. But by the end, when you played 6 quarters, the 7 days off versus 3 days off doesn't matter. Who has the will? Who has the power? And I truly believe if the Thunder would have won last night, as much as I love the Spurs, this could have been a 5 or 6 game sweep because that would have been so devastating for the Spurs. that they played a perfect game that even without De'Aaron Fox, it took double overtime and they still couldn't get it home. But now they believe. And I do think, Oklahoma City will play very well Wednesday night. I wouldn't even be surprised if OKC blew out San Antonio Wednesday night. But now all of a sudden, all the Spurs have to do is hold on court and they will make the NBA Finals. And I think the Spurs are the perfect matchup with all their guards. Wemby matching up against Shen Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. Luke Cornett is in there as well to bang bodies. Vassell was excellent last night, especially his corner threes at big time moments. I do think the Spurs have enough to win the NBA championship, and they are getting better and better and better by the minute. Now, I will say this, and a couple years ago, I said the Nuggets were going to be the next dynasty in the NBA, and Corey, I cursed them. But at this point, there's nothing for me not to say, not to see, to say. I do think the Spurs are the next NBA's dynasty. And the fun part is, this is not your Tim Duncan, Greg Popovich, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, sort of Bill Belichick as do your job, boring, no personality Spurs. These are young, high flying, energetic Spurs, and clearly Victor Wembanyama is not afraid of the moment. I mean, he's an alien, flat out. They call him the alien he is. Who stops and takes a 28-foot jump shot? That's even a bad shot for Steph Curry. Swish right through the net. Now, in the Eastern Conference final side, going into the playoffs, you guys know I did say I had the Cavs defeating the Pistons. I thought it was going to be a 3 versus 4 matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals, which I said was going to feel weird to all of you. But the bottom line is going into the season, preseason predictions, I had this Eastern Conference Finals just as a 1 and 2 seed. And James Harden was terrible in Game 7. He had less than 10 points again, 2 for 10 from the field. It didn't matter because Donovan Mitchell showed up, Jared Allen showed up, Evan Mobley especially showed up, and the Cavs dominated on the glass. And the Detroit Pistons, with J.B. Bickerstaff, got exposed and learned what Cleveland Cavaliers fans learned with J.B. Bickerstaff a few years ago, which J.B. Bickerstaff is a very good coach. He's not going to be that coach to get you over the hump. Now, I think Minnesota and Detroit, I think Minnesota is going to move on Julius Randle. I think Detroit has to find their second scorer. I think they're both going to be looking in terms of needs of, could we go get a Kevin Durant this summer? Now, Minnesota, I don't think should. Actually, I think Detroit with Kevin Durant, even though he's not really a great defender, he wouldn't have to be the leader on that team. And unlike Houston, where we thought Ben Thompson was a leader, clearly we didn't know it though. We know Cade Cunningham is a leader. Now, Cade Cunningham had a horrible Game 7. For some reason, no one's killing him because Cade Cunningham came up short. And, in a big game situation, Tobias Harris did not get a field goal. That would concern me moving forward if I'm a Pistons fan. Was this old 60 game regular season a mirage? Because we really should have watched Orlando if Orlando didn't go on an all-time cold streak. And we were up 2-0 against the Cavs. We lost 4 of our last 5, including Game 5 and Game 7 on our home floor. What does concern me about the Cavs is I thought they were going to blow out Detroit in Game 6 after winning that incredible Game 5. And they did not come out with urgency in Game 6 with the Cavs. And we know Donovan Mitchell. We know he loves Madison Square Garden. It's famous. The Knicks tried to get Donovan Mitchell from the Cavaliers. And they couldn't get him, so they went out and they signed Jalen Brunson. I think it's worked out for both teams. But, for the Cavs, they went to 7 games with a Toronto team who outdid Scotty Barnes. And yes, RJ Barrett's talented, but you're not really afraid of RJ Barrett. Very similar to Tobias Harris. Outdid Scotty Barnes and Cade Cunningham. You're not afraid of their scoring ability. For the Knicks, you have Jalen Brunson and your Karl Anthony Towns, the 2 stars, not to mention OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. Josh Hart, all of them can shoot. Mitchell Robinson will be very physical on the glass with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I think it's a bad matchup for this Cavs team. And the Knicks have had 9 days off. I get it. If there's an opportunity for the Cavs to steal game one, it is tonight in the world's most famous arena. But the thing about the Cavs is this: you never know what you're going to get outside of a bad James Harden performance because you're due for at least one of those. But you don't know if Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are going to show up. You don't even know if Donovan Mitchell's going to show up. Game four, second half, he showed up. Game seven, he showed up. That's it for the whole postseason. Game six, he went neg. Game three, for the most part, he went neg, and it was actually Harden who carried him. Game two in Detroit, he went neg. So, Sam Merrill's been good. Max Strutz's been very good. Can they continue that momentum? That's going to be a big question for me for Cleveland. But my original prediction going into the playoffs for Spurs over OKC in 6, Knicks over Cleveland in 5, I'm going to stick to those predictions. Like that clip from the Brand Sports Podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand Sports Podcast right here on YouTube.